August 3rd wasn't just a date. It was a milestone, a line in the sand between who I'd been and who I was finally allowed to become. The grass beneath our feet was freshly trimmed. The air was warm, kissed by summer. Emily, radiant in a satin white gown, stood beneath the fairy lights like she was carved from light itself. Every time she smiled at me, I forgot the years I spent just surviving. The jazz band hummed softly as guests arrived one by one. 43 people, every one of them chosen, not out of obligation, but out of truth. People who had seen us grow, seen us struggle, and were still here, smiling, supporting. And for once, I wasn't hustling, I wasn't fixing, I wasn't covering for someone else, answering a desperate call at midnight, or wiring another emergency $500. No, this day was mine. I'd built this from nothing. Consulting jobs I didn't sleep for, layovers that stretched into sleeping on airport chairs. Living off microwave oatmeal just to pay rent and still send Bethany help when she claimed she couldn't eat. But today was different. Today the world saw me, not as a fixer, but as a woman in love. Respected, loved, free. Emily's hand in mine, my heart steady, the venue glowing. It felt like I was finally standing in a moment I didn't have to earn. I could just be in it. I thought the hardest part was over, that the universe had finally allowed me one golden chapter. But I didn't know that the wrecking ball was wearing a gold dress, and she hadn't even arrived yet. She didn't text she was coming. She didn't say she'd be late. No congrats. No, I'm here. Bethany just walked in like she was the headline act at a show she didn't even RSVP to. She wore a gold backless dress, not champagne, not beige, not soft summer tones like everyone else. No, it shimmered under the lights like a challenge. Like she was daring someone, anyone, to say something. She didn't look at me, she didn't look at Emily, she didn't even glance at our parents. Instead, she grabbed a glass of champagne from a passing tray and drifted to the far corner of the room where the shadows met the string lights. Like a guest who didn't belong and didn't care. But I knew Bethany. That silence, that icy composure was never just silence. It was the prelude to chaos. The kind she rehearsed in her head long before she ever acted it out. I watched her from across the room, not with anger, but with an ache in my chest that felt familiar. Because this wasn't the first time she showed up late, made herself impossible to ignore, and hijacked a moment that wasn't hers. But it was the first time she did it on my wedding day. I stood, glass in hand, heart full, voice steady. It was the moment I'd waited my whole life for, not just to be loved, but to be seen. I looked at Emily. I looked at the people who'd traveled from other states just to witness this. I took a breath and began. I want to thank every single person in this room for believing in us. And that's when I saw her move. Bethany stood, not to clap, not to toast, but to throw. Her arms snapped like a whip and her champagne glass soared through the air in a perfect shimmering arc. It hit the dessert table. The sound wasn't dramatic. It was shattering. Crystal on glass, frame against floor. The photo of me and Emily in Maui smiling on a cliff cracked straight down the middle. And then the cake. 3 tiers. Hours of delicate sugar work, hand-piped flowers, custom colors. Bethany walked over, grabbed the bottom tier, and flipped the entire cake like a table. The crowd gasped, but no one moved. And then came her voice, sharp, loud. The kind of voice that pierces through bone. This is what you get for acting like you're better. You could have heard a pin drop. Even the music had stopped. The only sound was someone's phone buzzing from a purse across the room. No one said anything. No one looked at me, except my mother. She ran past the destroyed cake, past the photo, past me, straight to Bethany, and hugged her, like she was the one who had just been attacked. She just needs to let it out, my mom whispered, stroking her hair. I didn't move. I didn't speak. Not because I didn't have words, but because I finally understood something I had spent years refusing to believe. This was never going to stop, because no one ever made her face the cost of it. I stood in my wedding dress in front of 43 stunned guests next to a woman I loved, and realized I was the only one in that room who had truly shown up, not for drama, not for spectacle, but for something real. No tears, no rage, just a silence so sharp it felt like truth. We didn't talk much on the ride home. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was sacred, like the space between lightning and thunder, still but charged. Emily walked into the bedroom to take off her gown. I walked into the kitchen and opened my laptop. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was focused. For years, I had poured time, money, and emotional oxygen into Bethany's chaos. I had cleaned her messes, paid her rent, defended her to our parents, and believed every excuse she served with tears. But tonight, she had made something perfectly clear. I was nothing more than a backdrop in her story, a prop she could set fire to if it made her feel powerful. And if she thought I would keep funding the arson after that, she didn't know me at all. I pulled up the university portal first, logged in, found the tuition deposit I'd made last month, $9,400, gone with one click. Then I logged into the rental portal, the one with the lease I co-signed for her off-campus apartment. One password, 2 clicks, account frozen. No payments could go through, no renewals without my approval. Rent was due in 5 days. I didn't make a scene. I didn't post about it. I didn't even tell Emily what I was doing. Not because I was hiding it, but because, for the first time in years, I didn't owe anyone an explanation. I stared at the payment portal on the university website. It didn't ask me if I was sure. It didn't need to. $9,400. That number used to make my stomach twist, not because I couldn't afford it, but because I knew what it meant. It meant sacrificing another piece of myself. It meant telling myself, just this last time. Except, this time, I meant it. This was the last time. I hit cancel. The confirmation screen blinked once, then disappeared. It was done. Next, the rental account. I was the primary signer on Bethany's lease. She was just listed as a resident. All the control, all the liability had always been mine. I opened the lease dashboard, paused for a second, not out of doubt, but recognition. This wasn't revenge. It was realignment. It was accountability. 1 click, lock account. 2nd click, mark for review. The rent was due in 5 days. There would be no payment, no approval, no last-minute bailout, and most importantly, no more just this once. I leaned back in the chair. The weight that had lived in my shoulders for years lifted just slightly, like my body could already tell, you finally chose you. The next morning, the world didn't end, the sky didn't fall, no fire, no police, no screaming phone calls at 3 a.m. Just silence, the kind I hadn't felt in years. Emily was still asleep. And for the first time in forever, the apartment felt like a place to breathe, not a bunker waiting for the next crisis. I poured coffee, sat down by the window, let the morning sun touch my skin. And then, my phone buzzed. 8:40 a.m. Bethany. What the hell? Why is the portal locked? I can't access anything. Did you do this? No greeting, no hey, no please, just panic, sharp. Instant, desperate. I looked at the messages, one by one, and didn't reply. Not because I was trying to punish her, but because for the first time, I wanted to enjoy the quiet. Just 1 cup of coffee without a scream buried in the foam. Bethany wasn't used to silence. She was used to me fixing, chasing, answering. But this morning, I let her feel what I had carried for years: uncertainty. Fear, the realization that the person who always caught her was no longer standing underneath. 2 days. That's how long Bethany stayed quiet. Long enough to make me wonder if she was stewing in shame or just strategizing. Turns out it was the second. At exactly 6:43 p.m., there was a knock at the door. Not a gentle one, not even rhythmic. It was the kind of knock that said, "You owe me something." Emily peered through the peephole first. She didn't say anything, just turned to me and said, "She's here." I didn't move. I stayed seated, not out of fear, but because I already knew this wasn't a conversation worth having. Emily opened the door just enough for her voice to carry. "What do you want?" Bethany didn't greet her. She didn't smile. She launched into a tirade. "You can't just lock me out like that. I have 5 days to pay rent, and I already spent my summer money. I was counting on that deposit. She has a moral obligation to help me." Emily didn't flinch. She stepped out, grabbed Bethany by the arm, and with one clean motion, dragged her into the hallway. Bethany shrieked, clawed back. But Emily didn't scream. She didn't argue. She just grabbed a fistful of Bethany's hair and shoved her down the corridor like she was tossing out last week's garbage. Then she turned, closed the door, and locked it with a finality that echoed louder than Bethany's tantrum. No drama, no tears, just clean, quiet force. I looked up at Emily from the couch. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Bethany didn't show up again that night. Instead, she did what manipulators do best. She rewrote the story and cast herself as the victim. At 10:12 p.m., I got a notification. New group, family talk. The title was already a red flag. It had 4 members: me, Mom, Dad, Bethany. And the first message was from her. I came to talk calmly, but Emily dragged me by my hair and threw me down the hall. I've never felt so humiliated. I just wanted to make peace. Peace? She tried to break in. She screamed through the door. She demanded money. But now she was a bruised dove, wounded and poetic, performing pain for an audience that had always clapped before asking questions. And right on cue, Mom replied, "She's just overwhelmed. She's still finding herself. Please be kind. She's fragile right now." I stared at the screen. Not surprised, not even angry, just tired. Tired of watching the same performance with different lighting. This time, I didn't sugarcoat my reply. No careful phrasing. No trying to keep the peace. I typed slowly and clearly. She's not a 5-year-old anymore. She's 22, and she needs to learn the cost of disrespect. No one replied. No bubbles, no dots. Just that digital stillness that feels louder than screaming. And in that silence, I realized maybe I wasn't the one they were afraid of losing. Maybe it was always Bethany. It dropped on a Monday, like most bombs do without warning. A friend sent it to me first. "Have you seen this?" I clicked the link. The title slapped me before the audio even started. Bloodline bruises, growing up with the golden child. Her voice came through the speakers soft, rehearsed, fragile, in a performative way. I used to think family meant safety. But what if your biggest scars come from the people who say they love you most? I sat frozen. And then came the buzzwords: gaslighting, emotional neglect, financial abuse, narcissistic sibling. She didn't say my name, but she didn't have to. The story was tailored, the timelines twisted, the details just vague enough to avoid legal trouble, but specific enough that everyone who knew us would know exactly who she meant. She painted herself as a misunderstood girl living under the shadow of a perfect sister who controlled her money, her voice, her life. And she had a sponsor, a therapy app. The exact same one I'd introduced her to a year ago when she called me crying in a bar bathroom saying she couldn't breathe. They reposted her video. She got over 10,000 views in 24 hours. The comments were worse than the podcast. "You're so brave. I relate to this so much. My sister was the same way." And just like that, my truth was replaced by her production. It was 7:15 p.m. Emily and I were having dinner. Lentil soup, wine, the quiet comfort of a normal evening. The doorbell rang. We weren't expecting anyone. We hadn't invited anyone. But there they were, two figures standing behind the glass, blurry and uninvited. I opened the door halfway. No words, just a wave from my dad, and my mom, purse slung over her shoulder like she might be staying a while. "We just want to talk calmly," she said. Not hi, not how are you, just the agenda pre-packaged and delivered. I didn't answer, but I stepped aside. Not to welcome them, just to let the inevitable finish arriving. They sat down at the table like nothing had happened, like Bethany hadn't flipped a cake, broken our photo, screamed in front of 43 people. Mom went first. "Bethany's going through a transformative time. She's made mistakes and she regrets them. The podcast, it's just her way of processing." Dad chimed in. "She wants a relationship with you. She just doesn't know how to say it." I asked, "Did she say that? Or are you just hoping she did?" Silence. Then my mom sighed. "She's moved back in with us, just until she gets on her feet. And we paid the tuition." Boom. There it was, the truth they had been skirting around. They had the money all along. They just didn't want to spend it, until I refused to. They weren't here to ask how I was. They weren't here to ask what I needed. They were here to make sure I didn't make things harder for her. And in that moment, I understood something completely. They weren't trying to mediate. They were trying to manage. They kept talking around the point, dancing over eggshells like it made them sound wise. She's trying. She's hurting. She doesn't know how to cope. But I wasn't looking for poetry. I wasn't looking for excuses. So I asked one question, just one. Did either of you ever tell her she was wrong? Silence. No stuttering. No, well, it's complicated. Not even a weak attempt at rationalizing. Just that kind of silence that knows it's been caught. That pause told me more than any long speech ever could. They hadn't. Not once. Not after the wedding, not after the cake, not after the podcast, not even after she sent me a Venmo request for the cake she destroyed. They hadn't told her she was wrong because they weren't angry. They were embarrassed. Embarrassed that she made a scene. Embarrassed by what it made them look like. Embarrassed that their sweet youngest wasn't so sweet under pressure. And the easiest way to make that embarrassment disappear was to blame the person who refused to clean up the mess anymore. Me. I stood up. Not in anger, not for drama. Just because some words deserve to be said standing up. I looked at them, the two people who raised me, who watched me break my back to keep this family standing, and still asked me to carry one more thing. And I said, I'm done. I'm not paying another dollar. I'm not covering for her anymore. I'm not playing the manipulation game. You want to fund her? Go ahead, but not with me. You raised a daughter who believes consequences don't exist. Congratulations, but I won't be part of the illusion anymore. They blinked, no protests, just stunned silence. And for the first time, I didn't try to fill it. I didn't soften the blow. I didn't smile to make them feel better. I didn't apologize for making them uncomfortable. I just pointed to the door. You can go now. They hesitated, but they left. And just like that, the chain broke. She tried everything. New episode titles, When Family Makes You Go Crazy, Toxic Siblings and How to Escape Them, The Pain of Being the Black Sheep. She used every buzzword, every hashtag. She quoted fake therapists. She screamed, she cried, she whispered dramatically, and for a moment she thought it was working. 1 or 2 comments, a share from someone in a healing Facebook group. But then the sponsors ghosted her. The views dropped to double digits. Even her own friends stopped replying. And soon, Bethany was talking to no one but herself. Her voice got louder, her accusations got wilder. She said I made her take antidepressants. She said Emily assaulted her. She said our family had a secret cult. At first, I watched. Then I stopped. Not because it wasn't disturbing, but because it was just sad. Like watching someone drowning in a pool they built themselves. The truth, she thought she could weaponize her pain, but the audience wasn't clapping anymore. Emily was scrolling through her phone. Just another calm morning. Then she froze, turned the screen toward me. There it was, a Venmo request from Bethany, $1,800 for wedding cake and picture frame damages. Note, fair is fair. I stared at the screen like it was a glitch. Like somehow the app had been hacked by a bad sitcom. But it was real. After throwing champagne, shattering memories, and turning our wedding into her one-woman tantrum tour, Bethany wanted compensation. I didn't reply, but Emily did. One sentence. No exclamation marks, no caps, just this. Keep the invoice, you'll need it for therapy. 30 seconds later, we were both blocked. And for the first time in months, we actually laughed. It was Dad's birthday, a small family dinner, balloons, plastic champagne flutes, Costco cake, nothing dramatic. Until Bethany arrived. She walked in 45 minutes late, wearing a white satin jumpsuit with a veil-like cape. People paused mid-bite. Someone dropped a fork. It wasn't just white, it was wedding white. She had curled her hair like a bridal trial, her shoes sparkled, her makeup screamed, "Look at me." Mom clapped like it was a runway show. Dad blinked, unsure whether to laugh or scold. And Bethany, she sat down like royalty, like we were the guests at her celebration. I just watched from across the room, calm, detached. Because here's the thing, I had finally learned the secret. Bethany doesn't want love, she wants attention. And attention, like credit cards, maxes out fast. That night, nobody praised her outfit, nobody posted her picture. She left early, alone. It was 12:03 a.m. The dishwasher hummed quietly. Emily sat next to me scrolling resorts on her phone. I clicked book. 2 tickets to Maldives. Window seats. No returns, no more Venmo requests, no more urgent family group messages, no more guilt in high definition. I muted the group chat, then left it. I opened Bethany's contact and hit block. Not out of hate, but out of mercy. For her, for me. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't feel angry. I just felt quiet. Like my brain was no longer on fire. Like my heart wasn't standing guard. No phone buzzing at 2 a.m. No, Mom says you're being too harsh. Just peace. Just Emily. And Ocean. Waiting. We woke up to light. Not alarms, not calls. Just the sun rising, like it had waited for us. The ocean murmured under the wooden floor. No walls, no clocks. Only the soft rhythm of a world untouched by family group chats. Emily handed me a mug, her eyes still sleepy but calm. "We don't need watches anymore," she whispered. "We own our time now." I looked at the sea, and for once, time didn't scare me. It didn't chase me. It didn't belong to my sister's crises or my parents' guilt trips. It belonged to me. I breathed not to survive, but to feel. I stretched not because I had to rush, but because I finally could. Time used to be a weapon. Now it was a hammock swaying above water, and I was floating. We sat on the balcony, wrapped in warm silence. The ocean was softer now, like even it had nothing left to prove. Emily turned to me. "Do you think they'll ever admit they were wrong?" Her voice was gentle, but there was weight behind it. I looked out, not at the sea, but through it, through the years, the memories, the skipped birthdays, the just let it go lectures, the moments I swallowed my pain just to keep peace. And then I answered, no. But they know. And suddenly, that was enough. I didn't need their apology in writing. I didn't need Bethany to post a retraction on her podcast. I didn't need my mother to cry and say, "We failed you." I just needed this, to sit beside the woman who never made me beg for love, to breathe, and to finally stop defending a version of myself they never wanted to see. Closure didn't come in the form of justice. It came in the form of release. And peace came in waves. There was a time I could predict her texts. "Can you just send me $40 real quick? It's just until Friday. Just one last time." I used to pause everything, mid-meeting, mid-lunch, mid-laugh, just to rescue her. But no more. This time, I changed my passwords, closed the joint account, opened a new credit card under my name only. It took 5 minutes to end a 10-year storm. No more just until payday. No more bank notifications triggering chest pain. No more waking up at 2 a.m. wondering if she's okay while she's out partying on my dime. I wasn't born to be her lifeboat. I was drowning too. But now I'm done saving people who set their own fires. The world didn't end. There was no apology letter, no big courtroom speech, no headlines, just peace. No buzzing phone, no group chats exploding, no Venmo requests titled, "Just this once." Just wind, laughter. The sound of two people who finally made room for their own lives. Emily looked at me and smiled. "You seem lighter." And I did. For the first time in years, I wasn't planning for a crisis. I wasn't bracing for the next drama. I took a sip of wine, looked at the stars, and whispered, "My old life, it feels like a book I once read. And now I've closed it." There are stories we fight to fix, to rewrite, to rescue. But sometimes, just sometimes, the greatest strength isn't fixing the fire. It's watching it burn, watching everything fall, and realizing you survived. I didn't win a war. I didn't change Bethany. I didn't get the apology. But I got something else, something better. Silence, boundaries, freedom, and peace. And if you're watching this, still clinging to the ashes of someone else's chaos, here's what I've learned. Sometimes you don't need to put out the fire. You just need to let it burn and walk away. Warm, free, and finally, without guilt. Sometimes in life, you can't save everyone or fix every broken thing. Real strength comes from setting boundaries, having the courage to say no to being taken advantage of, and knowing when to walk away. Forgiveness doesn't mean accepting hurt, and freedom isn't given. It's claimed when you choose to protect your peace and stand up for yourself. Remember, you deserve a life free from chaos, manipulation, and toxicity, one filled with respect and genuine love. If this story inspired you and helped you see the power of boundaries and resilience, don't forget to subscribe to Through Her Eyes for more real, heartfelt stories packed with meaningful life lessons. Hit that like button and share this video to spread a message that might just change someone's life today. Drop a comment below, tell us your thoughts, or share your own story, because every voice deserves to be heard.